They say save the best for last. Did they save the best for last? Ireland rehearsed Lesley Roy maps, and it was interesting to say the least, and we're going to take it apart and share our thoughts. What's the motto?
Let's talk Eurovision.
He's getting there.
I got it! God damn it, Matt.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Matt, ESC United, your favorite Eurovision channel. So, Lesley Roy, Ireland. A lot of people say it's a tough semi. They really, really want to make it to the finals. Can they do it? Well, if they don't, it's certainly not for the lack of trying, because, boy, the staging was something. And if you watched a French final like a few years ago, you may recognize the concept behind it. But basically, when you watch it, it's like, wow, she's in a forest and now she's in water. And like all these cartoony looking things, right? Where she walks around and she's on a treadmill at some point. Like, how is she doing all of these effects? Well, at the very end, closer to the end of the song, they actually zoom out and we see it's actually not big props. Are these tiny little paper trees and waves that they use, and they use camera effects to make them like look big, and that she's right in there, and you just feel like you are immersed into a cartoon or universe that is just really, really cool. It's a really cool moment. So it certainly was visually a very impressive attempt. Now we're going to talk about in a moment about, if it's too much or where it needs to be improved upon, but I think that they have something really, really good there. Vocally, it was not an A+, let's say that. It was certainly room for improvement, to say the least, but I also give him a little bit of room of slacking, because first Rehearsal, it was the first time she really got to do it on this big stage, and she was maybe more focused on being in the right place and rather hitting the right note. But that was my first impression. But I was very much impressed by what they put forward, and I think Ireland has something there. What do you think?
Okay, so I think this is the best Irish entry since 2015. The caveat is, I haven't liked an Irish entrance since 2015. But I'm going to use a word that I think describes maps perfectly. It was cute.
Cute.
It was very cute. I think there were a couple of shots in there. So for the people, of course, who did not see the rehearsal, what basically was is that they sort of recreated a forest in cardboard, and using perspective, they actually made Lesley either big or small, and they made her interact with the forest a little bit, while stagehands were sort of operating winches off screen to make it look a little bit more impressive. And it actually looked quite nice. It definitely left an impression. I think many people in the press center would say that this was probably the biggest surprise of the entire evening or of the entire day, and I would not disagree with that. It looked very cute. It looked very nice. But my main problem with this is that I wonder that if a person tuning in who has not heard the song before, what is he or she going to remember from that song? That's the problem that I have with this entry. Not so much the fact that they're doing highly on staging, but they're sort of distracting away from the song. That could help if the song weren't good, but it is good. So I think it's a risk that they're taking here.
I think that is not the issue, okay? Like, that's the thing, because you like the song. And earlier in our live stream, I talked about, I draw comparison to 2011 Ukraine and the Sand Lady, which I don't even remember the name of the song or her name, Mika Newton. Yeah, so I know that you weren't a big fan of the song, neither was I, and you like maps. So it's a little more difficult maybe to disconnect that feeling. But the point is, even though you may not like or remember the song much, you remember the storytelling. And that sometimes can be a very, very powerful thing. And if they do it right, I think it can work really well. Yes, the song sometimes becomes more of a soundtrack than the actual highlight. I get that. But maybe that's what they're going for. They're going more for than just a song. But that being said, if they do that, they need to hone it in. They need to make sure the vocals are on point, because then if they're not, then you can have the greatest staging in the world. And before I hand it back to you, just wanted to let you know that you make a good point, actually, because sometimes just a great staging isn't enough. Remember how all the fans, myself included, but I like the song a lot, in 2016 when Greta Salome, hear them calling flop, because it looked amazing. I love the song anyway, so I don't get it, but it doesn't mean success. Great staging.
You should mention that, because that's exactly what I thought of when I saw the staging for Ireland, and I thought, oh dear, this is a lot of effort that Ireland are putting in. This is their best entry in over 8 years. this better work, but I also think the semi is so competitive that it might actually just come up short. That's my worry. But going into the things though, into the proceedings, there were two really big question marks with Lesley that we did not know. Can she sing, and is she charismatic?
Mm-hmm.
And well, we know the answer. Singing is kind of that should be improved a little bit. But what I do think is that the staging, by being so cute and so whimsical and playful, actually solves the issue of her charisma, which I think was the bigger issue, because like, let's be honest, she's a woman in her 30s. She looks older than her actual age.
Does she?
And yeah, she's like in her younger 30s. So my worry was like, would Europe go for this? Would this be what we see is that women between 30 and 40 always struggle with the televote and with qualification chances. So she's in a demographic that's always going to be penalized.
It's sad.
I know it's really outrageous, frankly, because it shouldn't be, but it is the way it is. And how do you make such a person appealing? By giving them really cute and whimsical staging. It was really playful.
Yeah.
I can definitely see her like she's like a very playful kindergarten teacher almost.
Yes.
Like reading.
She was shining. Yes, she felt. I mean,
it
again,
was like an audiobook for fairy tales. That's the vibe they went for, and it actually was like, yeah, this is Leslie's little adventure. That's
she
very
was
cute.
smiling. She was sad. The eyes were glowing, so she was really in her element. So that I completely agree. Now we already kind of discussed the question that I usually ask at the end: what needs to be improved upon? What for the next rehearsal coming up in a few days? We both say, obviously, the vocals. We give her a pass for now because there was a lot going on, but we won't give her a pass next time because that is the most important, one of the most important parts of the song. Is there anything else that we need to
voice? And I think making the song stand out a little bit more with the staging.
How? Any idea? Like, how can if they cannot really make a whole lot of changes to staging unless it's being approved? Now, one thing you point out, was it you? Maybe I'm mixing up because some people didn't like that how the way zoomed out from the actual.
I was one of them.
You were one of them. That they shouldn't have done that because it ruins the magic. I think because that's a common thing to do. They did in Australia 2019. They did it in Sweden 2015. It's kind of part of it like, oh, okay, it's a cool moment. And I think it's effective. Now, you can make a case it was too early. And the way they zoomed out was a little weird because then the backdrop turns red and she was too far out.
I think the problem was the camera angle.
I think the camera angle.
I think they need to change that angle.
Because I missed it initially. I'm like, oh, is that what it is? Like, it needs to be more clear, cut and dry, like how they zoom out. And
the
I think
last
that was
thing, like if you're going on a stage with an act like that, that's people going like, oh wow, that's interesting, and then they zoom out, and you're thinking, oh, that's it. That's the last thing you want people to think.
Yeah.
So they need to adjust that camera angle specifically, like her singing the last chorus, not in her staging, but like on the catwalk there. That's perfectly fine. But they need to make the transition a little bit better because you risk losing the magic. And if I thought it and James thought it, some people will.
That is true.
People home will also think it. Jurors will think it, and then it will just snowball. And if you're already a borderline qualifier, that can be the difference between the points you need that get you into the finale and the points that deny you the finale.
Make it more seamless. That's what I'm saying. Don't make it as obvious. Make it just like a transition, like naturally.
Improve the transition.
It didn't feel natural, the transition, and I think I can agree with that as well. But those are our thoughts. What do you think? I know the clip that you watch on YouTube will not be very telling because you don't see the camera work, but are you excited about the staging or you think it's a little bit much? Leave your thoughts below in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. All right? I'll talk to you all later.